Kia ora everyone. Happy National Poetry Day 2020. My name's Siobhan Harvey and I'm delighted to be the host of the Divine Muses poetry reading at Auckland Libraries online National Poetry Day event. The Divine Muses has been going for over 15 years and I'm really happy and heartened that this year we have the support of Auckland Libraries in being able to offer you a feast of readings that celebrate National Poetry Day. Our readers this year are Michael Giacon, Elizabeth Morton, Elizabeth Welsh, Alexandra Fraser, and myself, Siobhan Harvey. Thank you. I've been thinking a lot about ghosts, not just of the white sheeted kind, but ghosts of memory, whānau, whakapapa, ghosts of experience, and ghosts that exist with us today. Indeed, I think we are all of us, irrespective of our ethnicity and irrespective of our background, immersed in differing kinds of ghosts. And I believe that that then makes us also ghosts. What I'm going to do is read to you from 3 poems that feature in my forthcoming collection, Ghosts, which will be published by Otago University Press in 2021. Ghosts. All the buildings that never were, all the novels unwritten, or the dead bodies of portraits never realised. The soul mate never kissed, like smoke, this loss, an invocation of what if, lingers in the air as our ghosts seep into the walls where they live. Sometimes fleeting glimpses snatched at midnight when we're sleepless. They haunt dark corridors where photographs hang, or rooms where old wallpaper they decorate the heart of the home. But mostly they are lost to us, like old lovers who promised us eternity rings which never materialize. Or they are friends we never communicate with, never forgive. Still, our ghosts exist for what is and what remains. Disembodied faces watching over us from pictures of prize giving, childhoods and funerals as we drift through our thin lives, as if they're illusory, as if they're real. My first boyfriend is an apparition of the heart. Sometimes the sun doesn't set upon a shadow. A tendril of something survives, stretching across time. Like how he didn't look like a lover of poetry. Like in you the rivers sing and my soul flees in them, never slipped from his lips. He tasted not of oysters or figs, cared little for champagne. Eau Sauvage was not his fragrance, his was not a jawline raw as razor cut, and he didn't wear to die for leather jacket, drain pipes or sleek Calvin Kleins. No, in those days when girls were persuaded to true love found in some kind of wonderful, move closer in the house of the spirits, he cut heroin and surfed, smelt of old spice and smoked, tasted of salt, and his body was a loose set of knives. He came with no warning, no protection, and so we kissed, and the rest. And this is why he'll always be the first to taste, smell, touch, appear, and sound of a loss. That night, fine as a thread, as a yarn about the one and only. Something inside of me, inside of him, broke like a mirror, like the heart snatched back. And lastly, from the sequence Building Memories, number 6, my last memory is home. Forever as I leave you, my last memory of home remains. Like the revenant, it's built of things already lost. White sheet out in bad weather, TV keens at audience, blank cold room nurses a dead pot of tea. The air stirs with silence my mother will not break, nor I who walk past her and out into lonely world. Without affection, I know I must never look back into this memory, mirror, dark place. To birth something as precious as a child, then bear them to give up, is no grief at all, no way to surrender. Goodbye, goodbye, is no grief at all, no way to surrender. A child, give them up, then bear to birth something as precious, as dark and mirrored as this memory. I know you will never look back, all lonely without affection, as you walk past me and out of a silence you will not break. Daughter of dead air, stir empty teapot, nurse cold room, keep audience of blank TV. White sheet out in bad weather, you are built of things already lost. The revenant-like remains of home and memory last forever as you leave me. Nami.
Kia ora tātou, ko Michael Jacon taku ingoa. First, I'd like to thank Divine Muses and Auckland Libraries for the opportunity to share some poems for National Poetry Day 2020. I'm going to read published poems, which means they will be in the library or available through online journals. First, I'm going to read a poem from Fresh Ink Anthology 2019. It was written in late autumn in Auckland, thinking about a northern Italian winter. It's called Argento and Raphael. We kiss by the fire, me shouting a translation to your heart. Red marble shining, snow outside, embers ash white on a darkened world. In time, I'm in sunshine, pricing minutes, where distance waits like a thief to steal strength from our separation. The mood you made the music for, it's here, ready to call through mountains you go to on Sundays alone. I had meaning on my side. I was special, but I missed the sounds you found. In my lack of language, you heard echoes for what I tried to say. I never got to go with you that Sunday to mountains that spoke so clearly. Late autumn, early spring, a bitter wind. Like our winter, I'm before the past, and perhaps the modest fire, maybe the undecided day, saw me too certain as I tried to embrace your heart, red marble shining, ash white, to your dark world. The second poem was published in the New Zealand Poetry Society online journal, A Fine Line, autumn 2019. It's called Embouchure, which is the way musicians position their mouths when they play wind or brass instruments. I'm writing a poem about how you play the oboe in the rain. Early Saturday morning, earliest spring, the plum tree I noticed yesterday just budding. When the rain abates, when the nectarine and peach need a spray, blossom soaked, young trees under a protection of copper mist. Liquid notes, minor on pittosporum, major on iron, play along spouting down pipes through draped windows into hush. I am no beginner, yet each embouchure is commencement, a location of what chimes the haphazard, technique adventured in white space, curves followed to shape letters, fingers placed, making sound, make something. The moment may mutter and the tummy rumble for the bitter-sweet breakfast, the to-do list steadfast on the fridge. I see your grace sway a frock coat, eyes closed. Posture compressed too hard, you suggest. Confidence may bend the line. Our morning music vibrates the day, an assemblage with silence for solo voice accompanied. Next is Regina Pacis, the Queen of Peace, published again in A Fine Line, summer 2018-19. I'm going to read it from Cityscapes, the chapbook of the Isthmus Poets 2019. This is for Siobhan Harvey. Plucked from the foreshore of street life with a smile of serendipity into the tide of motorbikes to a place of purloined holiness, the plain face of the cathedral tarnished with the black stain of time, wheeling a wonder of working chaos in countless epiphanies, alien where I flew in from. Lady vendors in non-la hats balance on bikes under bamboo poles, peddling sugared treats to dubious tourists, scruffy with choice. Bridal beauties with slick grooms coerce happiness in communist commerce, colonial and Catholic. Gorgeous girls in gloves and face masks, boys coiffured under helmets, a grandmother moving an orchard of toad fruit, families strapped to fathers, and Trian with me on her bike, blazing in for a photo op before the Queen of Peace. My next poem is from Landfall 239, autumn 2020. I'm reading this in memory of my brother, John Jacon, brother-in-law, Joe Forsyth, and friend, Kujina, Katarina Denave, whose anniversaries fall at this time. To everything, a season. Through glass, Inside faces out. Cloud across blue, paintings against white, sunshine on unpolished floor, the artist spotlit. She talks of brush movement as showers stroke iron. Outside also sits here, last week, framed by farewells through final hours, then the sudden release to peace. The Q&A confirms the arrangement of the room. Coiled colours flank an arched window. Anointed sculptures lean to bare trees, reaching. She's young, sincere, vibrant acrylic, full of grace. I need a handkerchief saved from my father's desk, but can't stem what's missing without, within. To finish, I'd like to go up north to Matapuri Beach, to summer, when and where it was written. It's from Fast Fibres Poetry 6, poetry from Northland, and I'm dedicating this to Olivia McCassie. Moon of Love. Under the moon of love, I shimmy on silver over waves, flirt with light, hang with cloud, under the moon of love. Under the cloud of the moon of love, rain shower blessing my lunatic stroll, in every way guided by stars, under the moon of the cloud of love. Shine on the man I am in this moon, reflect on the heart of my inner space. Show me the night, shadow my day, shine on the man in the moon of love. You, marvelous moon, I'm making all your promises. Luminous moon, promise me, promise you, moon of love. Thank you, kia ora, aguri for National Poetry Day.
I'm Elizabeth Morton. Happy National Poetry Day. This poem's called Stranding. We were never alone, pushing up loam on a blackened beach. We kicked our tails like we were trying to escape the outline of ourselves. We came ashore, 2 by 2 with our cutlasses and compasses, with our baleen smiles and bad attitudes, with our dead-end marriages and dreams that choked in drift nets. We were never lost. We knew the shoreline better than we knew our own purposes. We were a quarter into lives that stood us up from the water break, that left us gasping by the river mouth, blistering under wet sacking, our eyeballs fierce with the evening sun. We wanted the attention. We wanted to arrange ourselves upside down and scattered like something infinite, like stars. We follow each other to the end of the beach and sing something that reminds us of bone and the million land flowers our mothers spoke of, and the kamikaze heritage, our fathers and their fathers, who recognized a vague phosphorescence and shadowed it into the salt marshes, dreaming of air. And this poem's called God of Nations. There are detours through this kingdom I didn't know. There are summer horses and stone fruit that cap the hills, the snouts of earth movers excavating dread. Every drought starts off egalitarian and moves into something picky. The scruples of a pampas flower, the skink who moves in and out of moonlight. There is a heat that stills our thirst. There is thunderclap June and the caves we could not hunch in for the myths they shelter. This is a dream sequence that takes me from the Bombay hills to the flatlands of cruel mathematics. This is a dream sequence where I can love you and hold a bayonet at the same time. This is not a desert, but regret. This is not heat, but absence. This is a dream sequence where you run naked from the boot of a sedan. This is a dream sequence where 100 barn owls watch you run. I didn't know there was a shortcut through the house on fire and past the smelter and between the turbines that cut the ghosts into ribbons. I want to say I know this place with my eyes closed. I can run, butt naked, through cabbage rows and dairy cows, and the Waikato will enunciate my name with a branding iron and an air tag that speaks to a bloodline sniffed out by regret. I am writing in my first language. My second is shame. When I dream in words I cannot spell. And this poem's called Atmosphere. The wind tongues the fipple of tree, the manuka lean into terror. A gobany of crop fields traces the skyline. Look at us, girls who would be thunder, girls with monsoon ringing in our ears, a prescience for flooding. We were 7 and faster than our fathers. We hailed the shower head like a moon. We climbed out of second-story windows to trek into a world insensible as stone. Look at us. The field shook, the dogs skipped like pebbles into the far. We held our barrow of tubers to the storm. We sacrificed our brothers, and the earth spat them back into the corners of our bunk rooms. 7. Age of dung and pox. Winter sun split the grasses down the belly, muscles supplicant to the knife work of a god who couldn't stare us down. We murmured cantillations of bird and fox. We bashed through turnips and beets until we met something feral. God could not catch us by the ponytail. The sulphurous morning sun held danger like a promise. We bucked, mule-like, and held that promise through manila folders and pencils and staples and scars. We barked at the celestial and white-knuckled the rim of hope. Look at us, we said. Look at us. But the god came back, bigger, and we woke up, 34, watching ceiling fans circulate dead air, like gossip, like fallacy, fiction. Okay, this poem's called Sometimes I Dream America. You were standing in the kitchen with your hairnet, America. You grilled factory bacon and watered parsley in the window pot. It was hot in there, America. We sweated on mattresses next to a field of corn. We barefoot walked through bluegrasses and barley. America, we lassoed ancient horses, yoked them to our bedposts. We erased continents with the butt of a rubber. We smoked tailors in our cordoned off rectangles, America. We ordered Big Macs and napalm. We downloaded the world from our couches, exploded villages from our apartment suites, watched body counts split into a solitary pie chart. You were standing in the kitchen with your hairnet, America. You wrote your best love poem on a serviette in a Tulsa milk bar. It was folklore, America, but still we stood in bus shelters with supermarket bags and shotguns, baffled and alone. This poem's called You Can't Always. I'm not going to cry. All winter the television sulks in the corner of our love. You put the lentils in a colander to flush the ugly bits. You peel oranges to their pith and talk about your past like it is mine too. You say it was sunnier in Cheltenham than it could ever be in an unhappy kitchen with a lover made of feathers. I want to tell you about the way a man can look down a corridor, the way a hunter visits his scope. There are things too big to fold into your hands. A barbule is enough to demonstrate how even soft things fall down, like small people from towers that trade in shadows. When I say, I need you, it clambers up a stairwell in my throat, like you were the only window left in 110 levels of pain. I'm not going to say I get it. You toss the lentils in a brine pot and power up the television. You say we spend too much of life watching the kind of comedies that make you sad, like Home Improvement and The Cosby Show, that make you think of time and the way we were happy in Cheltenham before small people sat on window ledges, before the hunter's scope settled on an ordinary bird. I'm not going to cry. All morning, chopping onions, watching Bill Cosby hug his wife in Brooklyn Heights, before he was a rapist, and before you first registered towers on the skyline by their absence. When I say, I need you, I am a soft thing falling on something familiar. And it is violence in the way dispassionate surgery is violence, or the way the Cosby Show is what you get before you get what you never wanted. I'll take what I can. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Welsh, and this poem is They Removed the Mulberry Tree for Heart Rot. 1. We tried for you for a couple of months, and when nothing happened, I began to see ghost children everywhere. At the severed hippocampus-like tower block edge of the park, there was a stunted black mulberry that I sat under periodically on my way to an uncertain swim in the silence of the wintering Lido. It was a season of jittery spirits and of the not seen, not heard, not listened to. It was the age of protest. Unseasoned, I masterfully imagined lying sprawled beside the mulberry, unkempt hair, satisfied, fecund mother, with the placid, deciduously infant you. You who couldn't yet speak, together with those who spoke but still weren't heard. It was as though you wouldn't come until I listened. So who listens? Planted as sustenance for silkworms, the Victorians didn't realise caterpillars fed on the white mulberry until too late. This is so wonderful, I want to tell my future self, who gathers sleep feverishly like it's evidence of somehow not failing. There is a darkness to error that I want to apply slow drops of shiny foil to, reflect all pseudo-growth, an uneasy tick box of progress. There are so many more mistakes to be made. Yours is not as bad as you think. A good solid platitude can fix almost everything. But it's the crystal lattice, how atoms are geometrically arranged, that I'm interested in. that elusive interconnection that creates. And what about before that tree that sat with its root ball uncovered for a catalogue of maroon-flecked days until we realised it was lost in all this pink light? 2. I read that maternity is in decline, and I understand. And I also understand that it breaks me that absence looms so large in the small stains of love, in sequestration rates in native forests, in the apparatus of mothers. As I lay on a patchy white coverlet in the hospital induction cubicle, with a scudding grey film of curtain separating myself from another woman, waiting for you to arrive, they removed the mulberry tree for heart rot. The woman beside me moaned in bruised, questioning fistfuls for several hours, and I wanted to hold her hand. But when I called out, she felt startlingly silent. I don't want you to worry or be afraid, I said. You're almost there. Almost there. And the sun is up. And isn't that always something we tell ourselves? The trees outside our joint window were a mix of native hebes and irises of the ilk that leak along motorways and those beaten non-spaces surrounding libraries and council buildings that have not yet been choked by car parks. I know that we have to monitor the emissions we are responsible for, and I lie in bed and feel an indelible stain seeping through me about hacking back the wave of oi that covered the bathroom window entirely. Its other name, the only one I knew for the longest time, is jointed rush. And I like this. And maybe I shouldn't say like so much, and maybe we shouldn't think about names at all. When my great-great-great-aunt, with whom I share a name, began her midwifery career in the depths of Gura, a move which would see her miraculously rehabilitate small children with crippled muscles, she chose not to worry about names or definitions, and instead spent hours applying heat, trying to bend and move resistant bodies until rising worked. When they lifted me up and led me away, the bed beside mine was a tussle of white sheets and nobody. You're almost there, they said. Almost there. 3. When you were astonishingly 3, climate protests surged like billy-o, like the clappers. You understood the groups, the crowds, the singing, the marching, the side-by-side, the placards that read stop and change and planet and fires and trees. You were learning to read, and these words charged with fury were what you remembered for days afterwards. I think about Simone Weil, who troubles me, and her insistence that compassion for the afflicted is a miracle, and our muteness needles in repressively. It was spring, and the unsleepable didn't sleep, the light didn't fade. The chance words that you grasped didn't stop rolling prophetically out of your mouth. Standing in these crowds with a small child, I travelled backwards to when nothing seemed to change, but of course did. And I suddenly remembered that during this nothing time, I would inevitably carrom away from the singular mulberry and towards lonely right of access paths. Wild, unlicked clean native tangles I collected gently, put in my pocket to love. In these spaces, it felt like what was on the outside mirrored what was happening inside my wayward, obstinate body. There was a dark green mess along these causeways, these almost impassable paths, where you were allowed but not completely. I followed luminous children needling along, dragging their generously lacy souls through archives of trees no longer, taking too long to get anywhere, and thought, come on, why can't we move a little faster? Why can't I touch your big orange hearts, your rice paper skin, your squeezed closed eyes already? Why can't my undersized gopher's heart be filled with a thunder of deep diving swallows?
Hi, Alexandra Fraser here. I have some poems for you. The first one I'd like to read was highly commended in the latest New Zealand Poetry Society competition, and it's called Husked. The last days of summer were filled with blown roses, their luscious crumpled velvet wrinkling brown at the edges, drifting out a last burst of honey, apricot, raspberries, musk. Now the lake is twilight gone, full of dead hydrangea shadow, lost expectations. Fingers trace crevices in broken brick, moss after rain. We wove together gifts and appropriations, chance and fate, the pasts we wanted to save. Days were sipped, swallowed, gulped down whole, with small night sounds rattling the hot air. But nothing lasts. We've seen Ozymandias, his red granite eroding into desert sand, dust dispersed on a high wind. And was this how Canute felt, with the tide coming in and in, overwhelming footprints, shells, small scratched marks? Can we shed our past like a skin, our wants, our habits, thin, dried, curling ecdyses, scattered, leaving us naked? The next one was in the same competition, placed second, which chuffed me rather a lot. It's called Hydrocycle. Now, a hydrocycle is a little tiny creature. The name translates as water spirit. It's a little tiny stream creature. And it was a little creature I was particularly fond of when I was doing zoology. Later, you return to the streams of your youth. Stony creeks, languid rills and runs, seeking water boatmen sculling an ocean. Dragonfly dart shimmer, mayflies in ephemeral cloud, their one day in the light. You turn over each water-worn boulder and see the emptiness, the missing. Time falls by, and later you are someone else, a caddis larva encased in mica glints, feldspar fragments, quartz, obsidian flakes, a soft grub making a home of forgotten memories, discarded faces, dream shards, oriented upstream, spinning a net, caught in an unrelenting current. This one I'm taking out of my second collection, which came out last year, called Star Trails. It's published by Steele Roberts, and it's called Marks on Paper. The gallery, white light, calligraphic, bird claw, scrape on snow, marks on paper. Photograph, light, writes, refracts through text, photos of the missing, ink and ash, ash and ink, drafts of paper, curled leaves. We are written, characters caught in a fragile book, focused sunlight through a lens, ash and ink, ink and ash. And the second one I'd like to read from my collection, Star Trails. This one is called Reflection. See this photograph of me. Look, I am there, through the trees, half hidden, secret in shadow. The trees have names. Rimu, Rata, Miro, Puriri, Kaikatea. Their bark is mossy, damp, smelling of life decayed. I am quite alone there in the frame, looking out. Were you the photographer, the eye that saw me, framed me when I was still and nameless? I don't remember, not anymore. And this poem is called Bird Watching, and it was recently published in the Best of Auckland collection, which was put out by Writers Cafe. Lovely collection, beautiful range of poems in it. I was very happy to have one there. So this one is called Bird Watching. Tears of concrete dust, dry, caustic. You're not crying, really you're not. Riffs of drills and nail guns, car alarms, the rattle-coo of pigeons with deformed feet. Dislocations of the city, disjunctions. Motorways save 4 minutes off your journey. You won't see the tui in springtime Kowhai. Sometimes at night, when silence is not shocked by police helicopters, the angry drunk has fallen asleep. Sometimes you can hear the song of the streams trapped underground, lost. Mangroves embrace the creek, stitch harbour to shore. Soft sulphur honey scent lifts in the morning air, threaded by swallows, dart and snap. Ash falls, iced with cherry blossom, carpets the footpath, pink and grey, like a young smoker's lungs. You hear the mopok call, ruru, ruru, ruru. Flight feathers stretch and spread, birds lift and swoop, fly high, fly far. You watch them, dream you are flying, wake to concrete, steel, human breath. The next one is from New Zealand Poetry Society 2019 anthology, The Weight of Blankets at Night. Excuse me, and it's called Counting the Ways. Through days of haze and sunlight, storm and autumn rain, and hard frost, each way counts, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. Through the season of jacaranda blossom, thick on the pavement, to the last drip of strawberry ice cream sliding down the cone. As bean cotyledons push startled green through sunlit soil, and windfall apples, cider sweet on the grass. For every seventh wave crashing on a black sand beach, any muddy track to a high hill lookout. I love you in sorrow, in darkness. Hours go by and I don't think of you. I write, read, deadhead the last of the summer roses, count breaths. And I think that's all. Thank you very much.